Custom maps in Left 4 Dead 2 can take you on a crazy journey through a variety of different locations. From San Francisco to Disneyland, the potential settings for a custom campaign are practically endless. But what about a campaign that doesn't settle for one specific setting? Instead of fighting the infected hordes through overrun cities or empty countrysides, this custom campaign has the survivors fighting the infected through time and space. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another custom campaign breakdown. Today, we're going to be tackling one of my personal favorite custom maps, Time to Die. This is a fantastic custom map that takes full advantage of its core concept. This custom campaign is centered around a time machine the survivors find, and after turning it on, the survivors are fighting the infected through a variety of different locations, all from different time periods. These locations are not only wildly different from one another, they are also fun areas to play through. On top of that, this campaign has a ton of lore and Easter eggs that are easy to miss on a first playthrough. We have a lot to discuss, so, without wasting any more time, let's break down the story behind Time to Die. The campaign starts out with the Left 4 Dead 2 survivors in an underground tunnel. Alice brings up a nearby military base and the survivors decide to give it a shot, considering they have no other options. When you leave the tunnel, the survivors see a nearby road and decide to follow it. When traveling under a tunnel, the survivors find a room full of generators, and one of them is turned on, so it's clearly pumping power to something. Upon exiting the tunnel and heading into the woods, they find the doors to what looks like a bunker. Turns out this is the military base discussed at the beginning of the chapter, and as you can probably guess, the base has already been overrun by the infected. Before we talk about the military base, there is an important Easter egg that we need to discuss first. Right before you reach the military base, you can find this treehouse, and when you climb up, you can find a sniper rifle and what looks like a Nintendo Switch. You can also find a radio, and if you wait in front of this radio for just a few moments, you can hear this cryptic message.
Initiate 149-527 Uniform Foxtrot Oscar 0459. There is no 3999. Conclusion.
We are a few minutes into the first chapter, and we already have a secret radio transmission rambling off a weird sequence of numbers and names. So let's do our best to break this all down. The first thing of note is the 149 at the beginning of the sequence, which is a possible reference to the 149 custom campaign. The other thing of note is this sequence of names, Uniform, Foxtrot, Oscar, or UFO. Try and keep this in mind because it will be important later. The other numbers are still a mystery to me, so if anybody thinks they can crack it, sound off in the comments below. Now let's head back to the military base. Heading down to the lower levels, we can see that the floor has been partially flooded. While walking through the basement, you can find a security room with a weapons locker, along with multiple dead bodies. After heading deeper into the military base, the survivors find these massive doors and decide to head inside. The survivors then enter what looks like a control room, and if you look through the window on your left, you can see a strange machine of some kind. Electricity is being zapped all over the room, so whatever this device is, it's fully powered and ready to go. But first we have to reach it, which means we have our first crescendo event. The survivors need to hold off the infected hordes until the door opens. This is a standard crescendo event, just be mindful of the room's small size. A coordinated attack from the special infected can lead to devastating damage. After the doors open, the survivors find their first safe room. Inside, you can find this massive monitor in the corner of the room, and we also have some wall graffiti to break down. Let's start with this one. Danae, I'm heading to our special spot. Whatever happens, I'm just glad I met you. Kyle, I'm just glad I got to see The Dark Knight in theaters. Priorities. Everyone who laughed at my stencil maker is dead now. I guess I shouldn't laugh then. Anyone else wondering what the hell these machines even do? Heard there's lots of UFO sightings around here. Yeah, sure bud. Feds never wanted anyone coming out here. Maybe teleportation experiments? Bullshit. Bullshit or not, I'd sure like to go back in time. Goddamn zombies. Let me get my crowbar. Lol. Haha. The survivors then leave the safe room and head over to chapter 2. After clearing out all the zombies, the survivors decide to turn on this mysterious machine, and after a few seconds, the room begins to violently shake.
I'm a reload. Shit, man. Oh, shit. Oh, shit, what the hell is going on? Stay close.
A strange tunnel can be seen in front of the survivors, and after traveling through, the survivors find themselves in a very different location. The survivors didn't just teleport, they traveled into the past using a time machine. Taking a look around, we seem to be in a Wild West town, likely in the southern United States. Despite traveling to a completely different point in time, the town still has zombies, which is unfortunate and confusing at first, but there's an actual explanation that we will talk about later. First, we have a few things to break down in this town. If you walk to the right of the street, you can find a fallen sign that reads as follows: Westwood, population, enough. At the dead center of the town, you can find this store, Big Iron's Guns and Ammo. If you knock on the door, you can hear a survivor on the other side. However, there is no way to open the door or get him out. Even if you go into no-clip, there is nothing on the other side of the door. It's still a nice detail worth pointing out. Something else that should be noted is the name of this store, Big Iron's Guns and Ammo, which is a possible reference to Brian Irons, the police chief and antagonist from Resident Evil 2. If you look across the street, you can find this store named Festus Slim's General Store, which is a direct reference to Festus Hagen, a character from an old Western TV show titled Gunsmoke. On the right of the gun store, you can find this saloon, and by the entrance, you can find the wanted posters of some familiar faces. The Left 4 Dead 1 survivors are, somehow, wanted criminals in this small western town, and from the looks of it, they all committed various crimes during their stay. Zoe is wanted for loitering and use of fighting words. Bill is wanted for attempted assault and theft. Lewis is wanted for possession of narcotics, and Francis is wanted for a very long list of petty crimes, so much so that it takes up 2 pages. On the surface, this may seem like a simple Easter egg. Considering that we just used a time machine and traveled back to the past, there's absolutely no way the Left 4 Dead 1 survivors could also be here, right? Well, the presence of the Left 4 Dead 1 survivors goes beyond these simple posters, and we will discuss this point later in the video. For now, we're going to move on. After entering a mine shaft, the survivors find another time tunnel and jump through it. The survivors then arrive at a brand new location. Pipes can be found all over the walls and ceiling, and this location also has automated doors. After stepping into the nearby hallway, if you look out the window to your left, you can see open space along with multiple stars in the distance. Pinning down an exact time period or location is difficult, however, we are obviously on a spaceship or space station, clearly in the distant future. This space station also features an armory full of Tier 2 weapons, and a hangar that has its own spaceship. Near the back of the hangar, you can find multiple dead bodies by a closed door, along with a mounted minigun that is no longer operational. You can also find a medical cabinet behind some security lasers. You can disable these lasers and access the medical cabinet, but a horde will be alerted, so proceed with caution. After cutting through the living quarters, the survivors find another time tunnel and head inside. The survivors then find themselves in a dark room, with a single door serving as their only way forward. However, before we open it, there's an Easter egg that we need to discuss first. In the corner of this dark room, you can find a sack sitting on a table, and if you interact with it, you can hear the following. After opening the door, the survivors find themselves in a well-lit hallway. A standard bathroom can be found on the right-hand side, and near the exit, you can find this radio. The survivors then reach the end of the hallway and try to leave, but after walking through the door, they find themselves back in the same hallway. However, there are some minor changes. For example, you can find a flashlight in the bathroom flickering on the ground, and if you look out the window, you see what looks like a ghost. The survivors try to exit, but after walking through the door, they are, once again, stuck in the same hallway. The survivors are clearly stuck in a loop of some kind, and the hallway is getting scarier with each failed attempt to leave. When you enter the hallway for the 3rd time, almost all the lights are off, and after turning the corner, this will happen. And after seeing the ghost, Rochelle will sometimes chime in with this.
Great. Like zombies aren't bad enough, now we have ghosts.
Also, if you look up towards the 2nd floor, you can see what looks like the ghost girl seen earlier. After walking through the door, the survivors find themselves in a black, empty void. A single ladder can be found dead ahead, and after climbing down, the survivors find yet another door. Maybe the loop is finally broken, and we can finally go back to some sense of normalcy. But after walking through the door, the survivors are, again, stuck in this forsaken hallway, and it's only getting worse. This time, you can find some graffiti that says hello, and heavy breathing can be heard when walking down the hallway. Behind the sink is a bloody shower stall, and if you stare at it for long enough, you might catch a glimpse of the ghost girl appearing in the shower stall and then disappearing. The survivors then try to exit, but the loop is not yet broken. This time around, the hallway is only illuminated by a bright red lamp, and after walking up the hallway, this will happen.
I got a bad feeling about that.
After turning the corner, you can find a massive pool of blood by the front entrance. If you head inside the bathroom, it's even bloodier than before, and a severed limb can be found in the toilet. Near the front door, you can also find this piece of wall graffiti. I can hear them calling to me from hell. For those who haven't caught on, this entire segment is a reference to PT, the greatest video game to never be officially released. The weird talking sack in the corner of the room, the radio transmissions, and the ghost girl all make appearances in the original PT, and seeing it recreated in a Left 4 Dead custom map is very cool. The survivors open up the door and find the entrance to a time tunnel. The survivors have officially escaped the loop, but first we have to hold off the infected hordes until the door opens. This crescendo event is very difficult just because of the lack of space. One spitter puddle can do devastating damage, so be mindful of the special infected and your positioning. Before we move on from this area, there is one more Easter egg that needs to be pointed out. If you head into No Clip and fly through the wall, you can see the ghost girl in a small room. This room is impossible to reach without the use of cheats, and despite that, the developer still took the time to decorate this room, which includes a clock and even pizza, just in case she gets hungry. After holding off the infected hordes, the survivors jump into the time tunnel and arrive in a new location. The survivors seem to be in an office building of some kind. The infected in this area are very well dressed. You can also find these desks and a pool table in a nearby room. It gives off a 1940s vibe, however a banner found in the very next chapter says, reopening in fall of 2009. So if we're taking this banner at face value, we seem to be back in the present. After a short walk, the survivors find their next safe room. Inside, we have even more wall graffiti to break down. Time travel was a mistake. Is that what this shit is? All I wanted was a hoverboard and I got this instead. I'm no scientist, but I think the infection is spreading to the past and future. The apocalypse is here. RIP. Science has screwed us all. Nice job, humanity. I bet this is Obama's fault. Hey, thanks for playing my campaign. All 4 maps plus custom textures were made by Kyle the Walrus on Steam over a few busy months. Follow me on Twitter at Kyle H. McLeod if you want. You're halfway to the finale, but I hope you're having fun. Making levels for this game is tougher than you'd think. Nice handwriting for a crazy person. What the hell is this guy even talking about, LMAO? Seriously, what is going on? I know, right? Weirdo. Who even uses Twitter? MySpace all the way. I'm at a loss. Maybe the zombies are eating his brains, lol. If this is a game, I feel like I'm losing. Near the bottom of the graffiti, you can find these green tally marks that are placed in a strange sequence. I still haven't figured this out, so if you guys have anything to add, be sure to sound off down below. In this safe room, you can also find a working jukebox, but after turning it on, this will happen. Now let's head over to chapter 3. The survivors then exit the building and cut through a tattoo shop. After climbing up to the second floor, the survivors find yet another time tunnel, and after jumping inside, the survivors find themselves in some kind of stable. Piles of hay and dead livestock can be found all over the room, and after taking a quick look outside, we seem to be in a medieval castle. This area is full of Easter eggs and hidden lore bits, so without wasting any more time, let's break it all down. The first thing of note are these cages on the left-hand side. One of them is open and the other is closed. Behind both doors, we can see a massive pile of bodies, likely the residents of the castle who ended up getting infected. While walking through the castle, you can also find these tapestries. These basically serve as temporary substitutes for the wall graffiti. Not only does it fit the time period, these tapestries tell us some very crucial details about the overall story. First, let's start with these ones found in the stables. Behold the dead whomst howl like beasts. To fly with the wings of the devil is to sin. May God save us from this plague of undeath. This tapestry seems to be describing the hunter. The image shows a man soaring through the air, ready to pounce on a soldier. If you walk a few feet to your left, you can find another tapestry describing another special infected. Beware the ones that crawl. They ride men like beasts, for sodomy is of the devil. This seems to be describing the jockey. Near the exit, we can find another tapestry that reads as follows. Behold the risen dead of hell before us. Thou must find a trinity and become as one. A team of 4 can be seen fighting off the infected hordes. When you exit the stables, the survivors find themselves at the dead center of the castle. On the right-hand side, you can find another tapestry, and this one is hands down the biggest lore drop. At the center of the castle, you can find this tapestry that reads as follows. Behold these harbingers of doom, lest we forget their devilish crimes. King William of Riverside, Louise Lord of Medicine, Francois the Mad, Zoe Queen of Wrath. May God forgive us for showing them mercy. This is a massive lore drop that tells us some very important details. Based on this and other pieces of evidence, here's my theory. Sometime before the events of Chapter 1, the Left 4 Dead 1 survivors also found a time machine and traveled to the exact same locations that we did. Not only does this explain the wanted posters found in Chapter 1, this also explains why we're fighting zombies in the first place. Ever stopped and wondered how zombies ended up at these locations despite being from a completely different point in time? This could be written off easily with something like, well, it's a custom map and the player needs something to shoot. But no, in this custom map, there is an actual lore explanation for this. Our cast of survivors are carriers, which means they can spread the virus by simply standing next to someone. The Wild West town, the spaceship, the medieval castle, all of these locations were completely normal and free of any deadly viruses. But after the arrival of the Left 4 Dead 1 survivors, the residents began to turn into zombies. In other words, the Left 4 Dead 1 survivors quite literally spread the green flu virus into the past and future. Wall graffiti in Chapter 3 already hinted at this possibility, and after looking over all the evidence, I'm pretty confident in my theory. Just to expand on this theory a little more, remember these cells found in the stables? I'm willing to bet that the Left 4 Dead 1 survivors were probably held here. One of the cell doors is wide open, and both cages are full of dead bodies. As mentioned earlier, these bodies are likely the infected residents of the castle. Before we exit the castle and move on to the next area, we still have a few things to break down. If you head behind this house, you can find a room full of dead CETA agents. Dead CETA agents in hazmat suits do not fit a medieval time period, so these guys are definitely from the present, just like us. Some of the tapestries in the castle are also references to some very old and classic memes. For example, you can find this tapestry in the room with the dead CETA agents. A parable of pedagogy and obedience. Sire, the time has come. Repent for thine phallus and its own sinful size. Yes, my lady. Do you guys remember this meme? Well, this tapestry is a direct reference to that meme, and it's not the only one. Behind another house, you can find this. Remember that which we have loved and now lost. This is a direct reference to the legendary Lost meme. And finally, on the second floor of one of the houses, you can find the final tapestry. May those who play ascend to heaven, as words hide closer to hell below. This is a poetic rewriting of the classic Gamers Rise Up bottom text meme, and if anybody thinks this is a reach or a stretch, I promise it isn't. This has all been directly confirmed by the campaign's creator. The survivors then leave the castle, and I wanted to take a second to acknowledge this view. The scenery in this area is fucking gorgeous, and if you look out into the distance, you can see another castle, which is a very nice detail worth pointing out. The survivors then climb down to a dock and find their next time tunnel. After jumping through, the survivors find themselves here. This area is full of orange walls and moving platforms. It's very strange when compared to the other areas, but the platforming and puzzle solving is enough to keep you engaged. Before moving on to the next area, there is another Easter egg that needs to be shown first. If you walk underneath these stairs, you can find this button. After pressing it, a secret door will open. After heading inside, you find two throwable items. It seems like an underwhelming secret at first, but if you look at the corner of the room, you see a red target, and if you shoot it, a second door will open, and inside you find, well, this.
Okay. Boomer! Okay. Boomer! Okay. Boomer!
Now with that fun Easter egg out of the way, let's move on. When you reach the end of the area, the survivors find an elevator and have to hold off the infected until it arrives. Before we talk about this crescendo event, there is something that has to be talked about first. Right next to the elevator controls, you find this. A dead body can be seen. The floors and wallpaper do not match this area at all, and a strange white border can be seen along the edges. This is a very strange anomaly, but if I had to give it my best guess, this is probably a tear in space-time. If you played BioShock Infinite, you'll have an idea of what I'm talking about. It may seem like a reach, but the time tear seen in the photo does look similar to the one found in the campaign. Until we get official confirmation, it's really hard to know exactly what this is. Now let's talk about the elevator crescendo event. It's pretty hard, but you're given an ample amount of space, unlike last time, so as long as you watch your positioning, you should be okay. The survivors successfully hold off the infected hordes and then head up the elevator. If you look dead ahead, you can see another time tunnel, but before we jump in, we have another Easter egg that needs to be pointed out. When you get off the elevator and walk to your left, you can find another hidden button, and after pressing it, a secret door will open, and when you walk through, you can see this on the right hand side. Grab 8 coins and win a prize. This is a pretty easy challenge. All the coins are in one hallway, and you have to do some very basic parkour to obtain them all. After you grab all the coins, you are rewarded with a tier 3 weapon and healing supplies. Now, let's head on to the next area. After jumping through the time tunnel, the survivors find themselves in a strange underground area, and after turning the corner, the survivors find this. A pentagram can be seen above a pit of fire. Dead bodies are pinned to the wall on massive spikes, and while walking through this area, you can hear this very unpleasant noise. From the looks of it, we seem to be in hell, or at least something close to it. In one of the nearby rooms, you can find a chainsaw on a pedestal, which feels like a subtle nod to the Doom games. If you head into the other room, you find this. Bodies can be seen everywhere, and after interacting with this strange head, the cage behind you is lit on fire, which is accompanied by even more horrific screaming. The fire from earlier is now gone, so the survivors decide to jump down. Here's a fun detail: you can actually jump all the way down this pit and take 0 fall damage, which can save you some time. After walking through the lower floors, the survivors shoot a pile of gas cans to burn down the door and proceed to the next area. This crescendo event is very similar to the one found at the end of Chapter 2, a small hallway that doesn't have a lot of space. One good spitter puddle can do massive damage, but aside from that, this crescendo event can be managed just fine. After the door burns down, the survivors continue forward and find their next safe room. Inside, we have some wall graffiti. Salvation comes from above. I don't know what to believe anymore. The drawing of an alien and a UFO can be seen right next to the wall graffiti. Now let's head over to Chapter 4. The survivors are walking through the sewers, so we successfully escaped that torturous hellhole seen in the prior chapter. On the wall, you can find graffiti that says "Sita sucks" and "Mustachio rules," so we seem to be back in the present. Before we head over to the final area, there is another Easter egg that needs to be pointed out. If you walk into this room and head to your right, you find what looks like an empty room. If you head to the back corner, you find another secret button, and after pressing it, a secret door will open. After walking in, you find yourself in a strange hallway. Floating cubes can be seen, and at the very end of the hallway is an M60. Now with that fun Easter egg out of the way, let's discuss the finale. After climbing a ladder, the survivors find themselves in a barn, and after a very short walk, the survivors are faced with a massive farmhouse. Before we discuss the finale, we have a few things that need to be discussed first. If you look around the perimeter of the farmhouse, you find 2 downed helicopters and 2 downed airplanes. This would be easy to write off if it was 1 helicopter or plane, but 4 downed aircraft in the general vicinity of this farmhouse is very suspicious. Did the pilots turn into zombies, or did something else cause the aircraft to crash? We'll discuss more of this in just a moment. If you head into the basement, you can find even more wall graffiti. Let's start with this one. This place sucks. Hey, LMAO. Maybe it's just my imagination, but I keep hearing strange noises in the sky around here. My vengeance will rain from the heavens. Air Taylor. Chase your dreams, man. Ben was here. The survivors then find a strange device next to the farmhouse, and after turning it on, a beacon is then shot up into the sky. The survivors need to hold off the infected hordes until the rescue arrives. But before we talk about this finale, however, there is one more Easter egg that needs to be pointed out. If you head up to the top floor, you can find this wall right next to the stairs. You can no-clip right through, or have a zombie break it down for you. When you head inside, you can find this piece of graffiti by the window. Go cats. Now let's talk about this finale from a gameplay perspective. Well, it's a lot of fun. As mentioned earlier, the farmhouse is massive, so you have plenty of defensive locations to pick from. If you're smart with your positioning, you should be okay. Even when the tank rolls in, he has almost nowhere to hide. With proper positioning and item usage, you should finish this finale with no problems. After fighting off the infected hordes, the survivors are rescued by a UFO. It was foreshadowed all the way back in Chapter 1, and now the aliens are here to rescue us from the infected. The UFO is a likely explanation for all the downed aircraft seen around the farmhouse. The survivors are then beamed up into the UFO and fly away from the farmhouse, and that concludes the story behind Time to Die. This custom map is fucking awesome, and I absolutely adore the core concept. I love the lore, I love the Easter eggs, the chapter settings are very unique, and above all else, the map is a lot of fun and enjoyable. Time to Die is one of the smartest and most creative maps on the workshop, and it's absolutely worth playing if you haven't tried it already. The lore behind this campaign is very deep, and time travel is already complicated enough, so analyzing and breaking down the story behind this campaign was certainly a challenge, but it was also a lot of fun. So, if I did miss anything, or if you guys have anything to add, be sure to let me know down below. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.